If you're not using Ironclad for contracts, you could be leaving millions on the table without knowing it. Every contract holds renewal dates, pricing terms, and obligations you can't afford to miss. But good luck finding them when it matters. Ironclad's AI instantly surfaces what matters so you can act before opportunities slip away. That's why they're trusted by OpenAI, L'Oreal, and Salesforce. Find the savings hiding in your contracts at ironcladapp.com/podcast. That's ironcladapp.com/podcast.
Welcome to Seeing with Your Soul, the podcast aimed to inspire you to find your voice and become the best, truest, and most authentic version of yourself. Spiritually intimate, soul-to-soul conversations, life-changing insights, and spiritual teaching and healing. Real, raw, unfiltered. Join your host, Tisha Michelle.
Welcome and welcome back to another episode of Seeing with Your Soul with me, Tisha Michelle, your host. Hi, everyone. What's up? Here's a famous question. How are you guys feeling? Take a minute, check in with yourself. Who cares if no one asks you how you're feeling or how you're doing? While that may be nice, for people to just, show you that they care. And if that's how you feel like people can express themselves or express the way that they feel about you by asking like, how you doing? How are you feeling? That is great. However, even if nobody asks you, it's okay. Ask yourself, check in with yourself right now. How are you feeling? Acknowledge those feelings, those emotions. Are you feeling great? Hell yeah, let's get it. Are you feeling like, I don't know, I'm feeling some type of way and you don't even know what that way is, or you're feeling sad, whatever it is, just check in with yourself. Check in with yourself and give yourself, your own care and your own love. All right, so let's express some gratitude. So, you know what? Matter of fact, I'll ask the question. I'll answer the question that I just asked you guys. How am I feeling? I'm actually feeling really, really good. And probably about 30 minutes ago, I checked in with myself, but I checked in with myself because I was being silly. I was like warming up some food and I just started like dancing. And I just all of a sudden just started dancing. And I'm pretty sure I was probably even doing like the robot and stuff. No, I'm kidding. I was just making up some dance move while my food was warming up. And I started laughing at myself. And I was like, wait a minute, how are you feeling right now? And I'm still feeling the same way. I feel good. Like, I just feel good. So, I've said to you guys, when you check in with yourself and you ask yourself how you're feeling and you acknowledge that, then ask yourself why. It doesn't matter if you feel like this feeling is negative or it's positive, whatever it is that you're giving to it. And I was like, well, why do you feel so good? And at first I was like, I don't really know. There's just this part of me that just feels like everything is just going to be great. Everything is just going to be great. And that is how I was feeling. But then I went a little bit deeper and I was like, I feel good because I'm coming out of my shell more. No, I've already been doing this over the past couple of years, where stepping out of that comfort zone and making things that used to be uncomfortable, hella comfortable now. But I'm really, really starting to pop. I'm really starting to pop. And even though like before it seems like, oh, like you're definitely, been, popping and just doing this and doing that. I'm like, nah, I'm really owning it. So it's a difference of stepping out of your comfort zone and doing this and doing that, or this happening that's great for you. You're celebrating it, or maybe you're being recognized and that makes you feel good. But when you start to embody that and you're like, yo, this is just me. Like, there's just something about that. You just want to just dance. So I'm feeling good. So if I express my gratitude in this present moment, what I would say that I am grateful for is pushing past that fear of, I don't want to ask anybody for help, or I don't want to bother anyone, or they're probably going to say no, and just going after whatever the fuck I want. If somebody that I want on the podcast, I'm just reaching out and asking. And it's just what it is. And I notice a difference now is when I reach out and ask someone, because I really very rarely do. And you guys know I've, made it more so solo, and I have people on like occasionally, and stuff. But even like then there's been some other people that I've wanted to like reach out to, but I'm like, nah, I ain't asking nobody for nothing. But now it's just like, it's so in alignment that when I feel it and it drops in, I'm just reaching out to the person and I just know it's going to happen. Like, it's just what it is because I'm coming from a different place, just coming from a different place of, this intention and this feeling like things are just in alignment and I'm just going for it. So I'm so grateful that I've been able to push past, being in my own way. It's like, move the hell over, Tisha. Like, this is ridiculous. Go after what you want. It doesn't matter what it is. If you want it, it's there for a reason, right? And the same thing with you guys. If there's something you desire or something that you want, go after it. Fuck it. Go after it and go after it with the confidence of like, it's going to happen. And if for some odd reason it doesn't happen, it just means that there's something better that you weren't even thinking of. All right. So what are you guys grateful for? You checked in with yourself. Now, what are you grateful for? But let's just get a little grounded, right? So unless you're driving or operating some heavy machinery, I want you guys to close your eyes. Let's disconnect from the world real quick, right? And connect within. And I want you to take a nice deep breath and you're just going to breathe in through your nose and just let it out through your mouth. Yes. All right. Another nice deep breath, breathing in through your nose and just let it out through your mouth. All right. Last one we're going to do together. You can continue taking the deep breaths as long as you want. All right. Another nice deep breath, breathing in through your nose and just letting it out through your mouth. Yes, yes, and yes. I know y'all feel good. All right, what you grateful for? What are you grateful for? Say it out loud, say it in your head, put me on pause. You can write it, do whatever you want, whatever makes you feel good. Just put that gratitude out. And as you, really just embody like what it is that you're feeling and what it is that you're grateful for, just yell it out, whisper it out. Just put that energy out there and watch the energy just come right back to you. All right, so back on episode 109, I had the pleasure to sit down with Ali Brown. And if you listen to that, when I did the intro, I talked about how I like manifested that relationship and that connection over like a 10-year span. And it was just so crazy how everything just aligned. And I just went for it and I just reached out and just asked her if she wanted to be on the podcast. And she, she was like, yeah. I was like, okay. But I had her on that episode, and it was called From Surviving to Thriving with Ali Brown. And before I reached out to her, I was really just thinking about like creating like this series of From Surviving to Thriving, because I get this a lot and I know it firsthand where we're all in such this survival mode, just hustle, grind, back against the wall. What's up? Let me make it happen. Stressing out, getting sick, like whatever it is, right? And you do this in whatever area it is in your life, and you're just in the survival mode. And then you might get a little breather in between, but then you're right back into survival mode. But it's like, how do you go from surviving to thriving? Like, what is that? And I believe that each person is different in the sense of what does survival mean to them? What does thriving mean to that individual person? I know one thing for me, when I looked at it, I'm like, thriving, like there's like different things, but like one thing that would make me feel like I'm thriving is if I'm able to put all of my bills on automatic, like draft, automatic payment, right? Because that was something I was always scared of. And just to keep it 100 with you around here, I still don't have everything on there. I have a bunch of like little things and stuff that are on. Like when I started like rebuilding, like my credit, I put like little things on there, like little small bills on there, and then just paid it off, with my debit card. So that was very like intentional. So, but it was also scary when I don't even remember what the first thing I put on auto payment. It might have been like my cell phone or something, but I was like, because being in survival mode, I ain't want to put nothing on automatic because what if I don't have the money? One, what if I don't have the money and that should bounce? Or two, like, what if I forgot that was coming out and then the money came out for that one bill and it threw something else off? So that was a survival mode. And when I was in survival mode, I wasn't able to put nothing on automatic because I was just trying to finesse everything to go. So to me, I'm like, okay, well, one way I would feel like I was thriving if I just started putting some bills on auto payment and felt good about it. Like yep, I'm out of survival mode and now I'm thriving, right? So everybody's definition is different. But I would just hear like a lot of people would just say, like, I don't even know how to get out of survival mode. I don't know how to get out of survival mode. Like, what does that even look like? What does that even feel like? So I wanted to start talking to just different people about, just basically just sharing their story and just seeing people who are from the outside, I would say that they're thriving, but were they ever in survival mode before, right? And being able to share that portion of them, of the surviving, and then also now the portion of them thriving. So what I want to do, or what I am going to do, is just in between different episodes and stuff, I'm going to be sharing the interviews with people that I talked to, that went from surviving to thriving, which brings me to today's episode. So in episode 100, and I believe it was 126, it was called From Zero to Three, something like that. And that was where I shared with you guys my journey of getting into real estate and how that whole thing came about. So in today's episode, I got to have just a dope conversation with Ashley Hamilton. And I do talk about how I stumbled upon her, which really wasn't stumbled. It was very intentional. So my homegirl, Wendy, put me on to Ashley, and she was on Bigger Pockets. So if anybody, those of you that are listening that are into real estate, pretty sure you're aware of everything with Bigger Pockets, because Bigger Pockets is real estate. But she heard Ashley's story on the podcast, and she was like, you got to listen to her. You got to listen to her. So as soon as she sent me like the link, I listened, and she was so relatable. So I wanted to bring her on the podcast because I was like, oh, this will be perfect to go into the series of From Surviving to Thriving, because she gets to share like, parts of her story and saying that. And I know some of you guys, or a lot of you guys will be able to relate in some sense, but I also got to tie it into real estate, which is something that I shared with you guys. Right. So, even when you're listening to this and you're like, okay, so this is kind of maybe even, some people might even think, oh, it's a little different from what it normally is. And what I want to start doing, 2020 new vibe, baby. No, let me stop. What I want to start doing is also incorporating us taking action, right? Taking action. So I'm always giving you things to take action in that sense, right? But if we work through, or you're working through, or you've actually, overcome that part of feeling like you don't deserve, what is that where people who have a fear of success, where you don't feel like you deserve happiness or joy or abundance or wealth in a sense, and you're working through that, and now you're coming into who you really are, and you're like, hell yeah, I deserve everything that I want. Hell yeah, I deserve to be wealthy, or to be abundant, or to be happy, or to leave a legacy and do generational wealth, whatever it is, you're already feeling like, hell yeah, I deserve it. Okay, so now let's take some action to make those things happen, right? So, Ashley was perfect to come on here and to have, this conversation, but also to weave in some information on real estate, because maybe you have been thinking, maybe it's not real estate for you, but it's something else which is equivalent to our real estate. But now we've working through this part where, your belief, and you're shifting those things in your mindset. Now, what are you going to do that takes you putting some action into that, right? So I love the conversation with her. We got to talk a little bit before, but then we definitely chopped it up after I stopped recording. And it was so beautiful. And I was like, oh, it 100% makes sense how the universe connected me and Ashley together. Okay, so super excited to bring this conversation with you guys. Hope you enjoy. Well, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us here over at Seeing with Your Soul. I really, really do appreciate it, because I always want to respect everyone's time. And, so if I reach out to someone and I ask them to be on the podcast and they say, yes, I'm like, yes, and it's because I know time is so valuable. So if you agree and say, yeah, I'll take some time out of my day to have a conversation with you and your listeners, I really just appreciate that. So thank you again.
You're more than welcome, Tisha. And thank you for having me. I definitely love what you're doing. And I love the title, Seeing with Your Soul. That's definitely what I'm all about. So super excited to be here.
Great, great, great. So the only question that I ask all the guests that's the same is, in this present moment, what would you say that you're grateful for?
Honestly, so many things. But number one, my time freedom, right? I have control of freedom of my time. I have freedom, financial freedom, right? So while obviously I'm grateful for my kids, my family, my health, and to be here, especially after times of what we've experienced during COVID, it's also let me know how grateful I am to be able to control and have my own freedom. Unfortunately, as we can see with the vaccine mandated, and again, I don't have an opinion either way, but some people are forced to get vaccinated just to keep their job, even if they don't want to. So that's when I mean freedom, that's freedom. So if you had financial freedom, then you wouldn't have to be put in that situation to do something you don't want to do just in order to feed your family. So in this present time, definitely the most thing I'm grateful for is my time and my freedom, period.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I agree, as well. And I had COVID back in September, and it really hit me after, because I also have lupus. So my immune system is really compromised. So it was rough for me. And, while it's all this stuff that's going on, I had to bring myself back to expressing the gratitude. I'm like, I actually survived something that many people didn't. And it really hit me like, wow, so just being able to have that gratitude and looking at things from a different perspective, like you with the time freedom, you're like, if I had to work a 9-to-5 job and I really didn't agree on taking this and putting this in my body, but it's between that or feeding my kids, like that's like a crazy situation to really be in. So, before when we looked at time freedom for all these other different things, and now it's coming into like health and stuff, it's just like, man, this is a blessing. So I can understand why you're super grateful for that. So love it, love it, love it. So I actually heard about you through my good friend, Wendy. So it's so crazy saying last year because we just were in 2022. But the end of last year, I actually got into real estate. So she already had rental properties, and she's also a real estate agent. So at this point, once I learned about private money, and I did talk about this a couple podcasts, ago, really explaining to people about that. When I started learning about private money, I was like, oh, wait, I could do this and not have to do this whole traditional way and have to worry about qualifying here and there and all that stuff. So I jumped right in, and we were talking about it. And she was like, oh my God, you have to listen to this podcast. And she knows I love listening to a podcast. She was like, yeah, her name is Ashley. And then she started saying this. I was like, don't tell me anymore. I want to listen to it myself. I want to hear the story. So, she sent it to me and I got on. I was like, yo, this is crazy, 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 crazy. So one of the main reasons why I wanted to actually have you on here is because it's not really necessarily because, oh, let's talk to them about real estate, but it's really about the mindset. So and of course, you can tell your story better than I could. But when you talked about how you use your income tax money and to purchase properties, that just made me just be like, oh, because I remember back in the days, like getting $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 in taxes, back because I had kids to earn income. I was getting money, and I not once ever thought to use that money to go into real estate. So that's a whole different mindset. So if you don't mind just kind of sharing, like, where did that come from? Like, where did that come from for you to be like, oh, I'm going to use this to get my taxes? If you want to give a little, backstory, definitely will love that as well.
Okay, great. Yeah, for sure. So I'll just start with a little backstory. So my name is Ashley. As you know, I'm born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. Still invest there now. And at the time when I started investing, it was 2009. And we were in a financial real estate crisis all over the world. So that made a lot of foreclosures go on the market. And just so happened in Detroit at the time, the properties were only $6,300. So I was working as a waitress at the time, making $2.65 an hour and about $20,000 a year or less. Mind you, I was a single parent of two. I still had rent. I still had car, food, everything like that. So it was really tough. And I never had a bulk of money in my life except for in my tax returns, right? So, I mean, maybe 500, 1,000 here at the most, but in just the direction I was, I was lower class, I was poor and low income. So I never had a big chunk of money at that time. And then obviously I didn't have the financial education about my credit and all that stuff. So I didn't know how to use credit or other people's money. So I'm just thinking like, hey, really, this house costs $6,300. I'll never have that money again. It'll take me 8 months to save it up, and then I would not be able to pay my bills. So the only time I would have that amount of money would be during a tax return, because just like you said, I have 2 kids. So I was getting anywhere from $5,000 to $8,000. So that's what I did. I used that tax return to buy my first property. Now there was a mindset shift, especially because I was 23 years old at the time. So while I had kids, I was still immature, right? I still wanted to have furniture. I still wanted to hang out with my friends, have a cell phone, and, buy clothes and stuff. So there was definitely a mindset shift, but it started with a quote that I heard. And I feel bad, but I've heard the quote so many times with different people. So I feel bad that I don't remember where I actually heard the quote from, but there's so many people that would claim it was theirs anyway. So we can Google it. But the quote was, spend a couple years of your life living how most people won't, so you can spend the rest of your life living how most people don't. And what I interpreted that as like, okay, if I take 1 or 2 years to not get the new car during tax time, to not get a new rental, to not buy furniture or buy expensive clothes and stuff that, I can't afford. If I can sacrifice that for 2 years and do things that most people won't sacrifice, that I can retire early at 30. I was 27, I think I was 24 at the time or something like that. So I had about 7 years. So I was 23 at the time because I had 7 years. I remember that. Sorry. So I was 23 at the time. I wanted to retire at 30. So I said, let me take a couple years and now I can be retired at 30. So then I'll be able to live a lifestyle that most people won't, right? Because most people at 30 can't travel around the world. They don't have time, freedom, and financial freedom. So that was the mindset shift, right? I knew that it was temporary. In our climate and our age that we are today, we're so used to gratification, right? Instant gratification. You see a new iPhone 13 and it costs $1,200, right? And we don't have that money because we're low income, most people. But we can go right to Verizon and lease the phone and get the new phone for free and just pay $40 a month or whatever the case is, right? So it's instant gratification where you don't have to say, well, let me save up the $1,200 to get the phone. So that's the climate that we live in. You want to hear a new music album that comes out, the new Megan Thee Stallion, right? You just go right on your phone. It's there. You don't have to wait. So that's definitely hurting a lot of us in mindset because we're so used to getting everything versus appreciating the value and the delayed gratification. So, spreading it out. So hopefully I didn't go too far off in that tangent, but
No.
that was... That was my mindset. So it was temporary, right? Saving, living frugally, living below my means, but that was only temporary. And I knew it built the lifestyle I wanted. So that was definitely the mindset shift that it took.
No, I love that too. When you give the example about the phone. So that was always something, it was just like, I don't have the money right now to pay it up front, so I'm not going to pay it up front. I'm just going to go get on this little plan and stuff. And my son's dad, he always would say to me, because this is what he would do. He would just go buy it straight up. He was like, because in the long run, you're spending more money.
Double.
It was like, you're spending more money doing like that. So just buy it. And I couldn't comprehend that. And he's really good with like finances and money and stuff. And it's like now in these later years and stuff, I'm like, oh, I get it. I get it now. But it's that instant gratification. But I love how you looked at it from the standpoint to say, okay, I'm going to have to kind of cut back on some things, but it's temporary. And that, I believe, is a big piece that people miss out on because they're only looking at it like, I got to sacrifice, I got to struggle. This is going to be, but it's just a temporary thing. So, I think that's a big part that people, so that's why I was like, what was going through her mind to be like, I'm going to take this money and I'm going to go get me some properties and stuff. Cause I'm thinking and I'm just like, I'm getting caught up on bills and
right.
Gosh, like, why is it that now that I get this big lump of money, it has to go to old things? And when I look back at it now, I'm like, it was definitely like my energy. It was definitely my mindset, the lack of the financial education and looking at it in a sense where I probably honestly was probably accumulating more bills because subconsciously I knew I was about to get a lot of money.
Get that tax.
And I'm like, that's a real thing though, where you start creating, in that sense. So when you were 23, how old were you, if you don't mind me asking, how old were your kids at the time when you got your first property?
I had my daughter at 17. So they were, I want to say 5, but just because birthdays, they were 5 and 3. I remember that. So they were 5 and 3. So they're really young. I was 23. And to be honest, my mindset was like, I didn't know what I didn't know. So at this time in 2008, 2009, Mark Zuckerberg was like the new billionaire or the new millionaire, right? He created Facebook and he was like one of the youngest at 30. So I was like, wow, I'm 23. Like, I just wanted to be a millionaire by 30. So I had formulated a plan. Okay. I knew that eventually real estate would go up. And I thought that maybe each house would be worth $100,000, even if it took 5 or 10 years. So I said, listen, just buy 10 houses. You buy them now, hold them, wait. And then in 5, 10 years, they'll be worth 100,000 each. And then 100,000 times 10 is $1 million. You'll be rich. You can sell them all. You can move to California and life will be great. You never have to work again. Well, obviously that is not the case. People get $100 million football scholarships. Contracts and they be broke. So it's definitely not, but that's just where I was thinking. So I didn't, once I got my first property, I was terrified because, this plumbing issues and things were happening that I didn't know or expect. But once I learned it and once I got in the property and moved in, I'm like, wow, that was crazy. But look at the benefit. Now I have this house that I can live in. I don't have to pay anybody rent. So I'm going to do it again, and I literally formed a plan that every year at my tax return, I was going to use that along with the savings or the rental income from the other property to buy another property. So from 2009 to 2019, I pretty much bought a property every year. And in 10 years, I accumulated 10 properties, free and clear, all in the city of Detroit.
Talk that talk. That's what I'm talking about.
Yes, thank you.
I definitely want to emphasize also where the keyword plan. You had a plan. Even if that plan doesn't go exactly the way that you imagine it, you have a plan. And I also think that's something that, a lot of us will lack. We won't create a plan. You're like, look, I can get this amount of houses and I can do it like this and get this and that. At least you're starting from something. And I always like to say, just, have this intention, create this plan, and then just let spirit, God, universe, whatever the person connects with to just guide you along the way. And they'll steer you, around if there's something better for you, but you still want to have something. So, having that, just having that plan and then getting that first one and just saying, wait a minute, I could just do this again. And then you just kept repeat. And I think that was so dope. So part of your story too, that I really liked was that you kept your job. You kept working and you kept paying when you moved into, and if you can tell them a little more about this, but also when you moved into the new property, you still were paying yourself. Like, come on, that's like discipline. And that's a huge mindset and not to go and, and really spend that. So can you just share a little bit about, again, that mindset or what you were really thinking to still keep your job as well as still paying your rent? Because you said you really didn't know what you knew, but you knew a lot then.
Yeah. So honestly, what I mean by I didn't know, so I never had any training. I never did mentors. There wasn't a lot of podcasts and YouTube at that time, or at least I didn't know. But I'm a person that can figure things out, right? No matter what it is in any direction. So that's definitely what it is. I'm not the highest educated. I didn't go to college. So I definitely don't think I'm just like the smartest person, but I just feel like lucky to when I see something to know that if I have to forego it for a while, that the benefit on the longer run would be better. So yeah, for sure. So basically what I decided, so again, when you are like myself, I grew up poor, and I don't want to say poor like that. We just were very low income, right? We were on government assistance, but I didn't have a bad, awful childhood. We always had food on the table. We always had a roof on our head. So I don't want to make it seem like, oh, I was just so bad. But at the same time, we couldn't have fast food. We didn't have a car, and I didn't have the knowledge. So it wasn't even about my parents giving me money. It was more so the financial knowledge that they didn't have, which again, I don't fault them for because they didn't have access to information like we do now. So for sure, that's how it was. So I was really, I grew up poor and everything like that. So I wanted to make sure that when I got something that, for sure nobody could take it away. That was number one. But I also knew that I couldn't afford to just buy a property, quit my job and just depend on that, because I had to build myself out of, poverty, but I wanted to also be able to reach back and help my family if need be, and also help my kids. So I couldn't just say, oh, I got 2 properties, I'm making $1,000 extra a month, let me quit my job, because I didn't come from financial backing. Now, if I knew that, if I lost my job and I can always go borrow money from my parents, then maybe I wouldn't have been as disciplined. So I felt like, I have to reach back and help. So this is more generational and it doesn't just start and end with me, right? So once I got my first property, first I was paying rent. So I was paying $700 a month in rent. So when I got my first property, I didn't have to pay rent anymore. But I said, instead of me spending that $700 a month on extra clothes or a new car and a car note, I would save about half of that, or as much as I can. So about $500 a month, I would save that so that I can buy my next property, as well as using the tax return. So that's what I did. And that's why I had to keep my job, because all the profits that I was making in the business, it was going to expand and grow the business. So if I would have eliminated my income, I would have had to pay myself, and then that could have slowed things down. So imagine having a job where you work and you don't take a salary because you're just constantly reinvesting. That's what it was. So that's why I actually had to work. And then I'm just a very humble person. I feel like even today that it hasn't set in how far I've come. And because I'm just always in grind mode, right? I'm always like, I just have to move. So it's still hard because those old habits die hard. I still feel like and live like I did kind of when I was, making $20,000 a year. First is not buying things I don't need just because, or not spending a ton of money on labels and stuff like that. So I still adapt that, and that's what's able to help me. So with that humbleness, I never felt like I was too good to work, And also what I decided was, now that I didn't need the money, I could pick and choose what industries I work in. So I would work for companies that could benefit me. So once I did retire at 27. So that was I had 6 doors, I think 6 or 7 properties at the time. And I was financially free. But after 3 years, I was only 27. So I got bored. I was young. I had free time and all of my kids were in school. So I'm like, what am I going to do? Right. So I started back working. But my second phase, I started working at a bank, right? Bank of America. So I can learn the banking industry and how it is to use other people's money and just how all that works. So I was actually getting paid to kind of learn and network with people, and also the health benefits. That really helped a lot. So that's why I started back to work at the bank. So fast forward to 2021, I did finally retire 100% from every other thing. And I'm just a full-time entrepreneur now. And even at that time, I still had a multi-million-dollar portfolio and I still would go to work. But that's just ingrained in me from just being a hard worker and being humble, not, treating people fairly and not looking down on people.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And it's kind of hard when you have certain beliefs, those beliefs, from a younger age, and it takes like a while to be able to release them. So, yeah. So in you, it's like, that survival mode, right? And this is why I wanted doing the series, going from surviving to thriving, because you were in survival mode, right? And now you can honestly be like, I'm thriving. Like, what's up?
Yes, I love the series and the title. When I saw that, I said, that's amazing, because that's exactly what I had to do, right? Where I was at 23 years old, just face it, and where a lot of people are now. And that's why I love telling my story and trying to help, because I want to provide that you can, right? But how society had everything slated, just like it goes now, a 23-year-old single mother of 2, extremely low income. Obviously I would have had to receive child support, hopefully, which I didn't. But I would have had to have some kind of government assistance to afford housing, because there's not a ton of affordable housing. So I would have been on Section 8, or I would have been in just like really bad neighborhoods. What else? I would have had to, if I wanted to go to college, obviously I couldn't pay for it, and I didn't have a college fund. So I would have had to go into debt, right? Student loan debt. But I would have had to, in order to make more money, to, mitigate the other things. So it would have became a really bad spiral where once I finally, coming from where I came from, been able to position myself to even make enough to have a comfortable living, I would have been already hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, right? And education debt and all that stuff. So that's what the cards typically lay out for a person like myself who's a single mother, right? At that age, so young and that's making that uneducated. So I literally had to survive and, in order to thrive. So I really had to go into survival mode because every dime that I made, it was literally to feed my family and stuff like that. So I was living paycheck to paycheck and all that stuff. But I knew that I had to change one way, shape, or form. And, I just had to put myself out there and do it.
Yeah, you just bet on yourself. Mm-hmm. And I think that's just so dope. And that's why I loved your story. And, and I think, people such as yourself, like the more you just keep sharing your story, it's going to help so many people because there was nothing about your story that was like traditional, right? There was no statistic, the statistics would say, yes, you would be in this. Yes, this would happen. Yes, to them. You're like, nah, I'm about to change this up. Like I'm gonna be the narrator of this story, So I like the more that you share it, it's cool because it's relatable to people. Like you said, I didn't have the college background. I didn't have the people around me saying this. I didn't, I don't know what, like at the time, if you, knew anything about credit. I know you said there was like, there wasn't like the podcast and all the things you were listening, but you didn't have any of that. So it kind of takes away a lot of the excuses that a lot of people have. And this is not to judge. It's a fear thing. So we come up with all these excuses because so many things have been like pushed into us so much that we just don't know what to do. So you kind of take all that away. Like you didn't have the background, the educational background. You know what I'm saying? You didn't have a whole bunch of people, teaching you or saying any of these things and all. What you did have was those beliefs, that we got to stay in survival mode, or being at 23 and a single, like, mama, you got to be in the house and got to live in a bad area. Like, why is that? If we really just can't afford something, like, why do we have to live into the areas where it's going to be a lot of gunshots or, or maybe, breaking into, I've had some family members that lived in areas like that. And some of my cousins have seen some really, really rough things. And I'm like, damn, and that's because that's where that is. And then if you don't have the people around you, you could fall back on that too and say, well, I didn't have anybody around me to show me something different, where I agree that a part of it, I agree a part in that. Then I also agree that you just have to just make that decision, like, fight that battle within yourself and people around you and just say, I want something different. And that's what you did. And I love that.
Yeah, for sure. And I would just tell just the listeners and people that are in a situation. So a rule of thumb that I believe, honestly, if that one person can do it, I can, because we are all the same. Now, obviously, I may have to work a little harder or train for it. But if one person could buy real estate that was poor or low income, then I can too. So it's maybe something I have to reach out to get information or train for or study for, but it's definitely possible. So a lot of times we like to make excuses or, well, I can never do this. And we have to change our excuses into execution, right? Mm-hmm. So instead of making excuses on why you can't, why can you? Give me, instead of 3 excuses why you can't invest in real estate and get started now, give me 3 reasons why you can or how you can, right? Because again, I've had, even to this day, so a lot of people, and it's sad because it's people that my demographic and people who I really want to speak to, but sometimes I'll post or these podcasts will come out and people will say, well, I can never do that. Or she was lucky. I could never find a house for $6,300, right? And that is true. Real estate has went up. But there are properties on the market right now for $6,300 right here in Detroit. So that is not a truth that they can't find those houses, because it still is. But they just automatically want to shout out why they can't. Mm-hmm. I can't because there's not properties for $6,000. Yes, it is, but they may not be desirable, but there are properties in that world. But I do always say that if you are an expensive, or I can't do that because I live in New York, houses are expensive, right? I don't live in a cheap market like Detroit. Okay, great. So there's still a way. So I have a solution where you can buy a $300,000 house for just $5,000 down, right? So that's all which is a tax return. And how you do that is you get an FHA loan, which allows you to put 3.5% down. And that's of $300,000. So that's $15,000. But you have some closing costs. And then you can get a government grant for down payment assistance, which they're out here all the time, for $10,000. So now essentially you've gotten to a $300,000 house for just $5,000 out of your pocket, because your down payment is $15,000. You're getting $10,000 in a down payment assistance program, right? So it is possible. But again, not saying like you can't do it because your market is expensive or because you'll never find a house that cheap. You just have to change your mindset, right? You can do it. Just get with the people who are doing it. So that's just something I would give people that feel like they can't do it. You definitely can just talk to somebody that's done it.
Absolutely. And like you said, and this to me, it was listening to podcasts, like Bigger Pockets. That's where I listened to your, and I'll make sure in the show notes, I'll put the link to that episode too, so they can like hear like the full thing. But just listening to that, like I have been like obsessed. And I started at the beginning, and it's like 500 something episodes, but I was like, I'm new to Bigger Pockets, so I really just started listening to a bunch, and I was hopping around, and then I would just really just scroll through. And this is what I would suggest to other people too, is, if it's something that you want to like learn or just want to just get more information, just go look at the titles and see what stands out to where you're at in your life right now. Right. So, even if my friend hadn't sent me that episode and I would have like scrolled across to see 23-year-old, waitress and bought, your tax, I'd have been like, wait a minute, because I was getting some money in taxes. Let me
tax that, right?
Yeah, because it feels, it's definitely changed once I got it. I had my home care agency. I was in a different tax bracket. And I was like,
right?
this is what people mean when they say I'm in a different tax bracket. I'm like, this is so foreign to me. What you mean I owe money? I thought I was getting money back.
Right.
So it was a huge thing. But, it's really just looking at the podcast, because they're all free, and kind of just scroll through and then just listen to a bunch of things and start to educate yourself, so you can start taking like those excuses away. I mean, I had the excuses too, and I didn't even know that I had a network of people like in my holistic practice, the people that I work with a lot of, people that are in real estate, but this is on their own, like not in real, I don't work with them with real estate. I work with them on like their private stuff. And I have this whole network of people, of other people's money and all these different things. But I only kept it at the one thing that I work with them on until I went to dinner with two of my clients. And then, of course, real estate is the topic of conversation because they're all in real estate. And that's when it was like, wait a minute, I could use somebody else's money. Wait a minute, I'm so confused right now. What you mean I could just use somebody else's money to purchase these, houses? And I was like blown away. Right. But I was keeping myself a little closed off because I thought that there was only one way to get into real estate, and that was just the traditional. But that's what a lot of us do. We think that there's only one way to do something, but you really do have to like open yourself up, and definitely, like you said, start with podcasts. Like listening to the people that are listening now, you just gave them game about the FHA. Like, wait a minute. Don't worry about buying a property for $6,000 because that $6,000 you wanted to spend. Now you're going to go get you a property that's like $300,000. Like,
absolutely.
Mind blowing.
That makes sense. Yes.
So now and that's true.
Right, for sure. And that's what I always say, like, definitely we are so lucky to have access to information, right? We are in two different states, right? Probably hundreds of thousands of miles away from each other, and we can connect easily just like that. So right now with access, even myself, I'm a coach and mentor. So you can reach out to me personally and I can help you if you need to. So right now, like we can't blame our parents for not passing down financial knowledge and education to us because they didn't have access to it freely. Our kids can blame us for not passing down this information because it's no excuse why you can't get it. It's free. It's easy access. You can type in 2 or 3 letters and now you're on YouTube at a podcast, right? So now it is our fault if our kids and our next generations isn't financially educated because we have it at our fingertips for free, right? And obviously, if you need the extra help and you want to pay for coaching, that's available too. But again, there's no excuse for this right now because a lot of stuff is free.
Absolutely. And you're right. So I have 4 kids, 2 girls and 2 boys. Their story better than I ever say, oh, my mother didn't teach me. I'll be like, you are a liar.
Right. You didn't listen.
You didn't use it. You didn't use it. But, even with me learning so many things, later in the, I'm 41, so this has been now the past couple of years. But now I'm teaching my kids and I'm sharing that with them. And then they're learning something. They're sharing it with me because I'm like, no, I don't want my story to be their story when it comes to finances. They're going to have their own lessons that they need to learn that, I don't have anything to do with. But when it comes to that portion, like, no, that story is going to be different. It's going to change. And I know you're really, really big with the generation, changing that energy. And I was on your live when you were so excited about with like your daughter. So you're gonna share like that with them. I was just like so happy. Like
yeah, for sure. So I do have a principle because again, I definitely want to try to change the narrative and provide that generational wealth. But I feel like a lot of people that look like me we're missing that, right? And not blaming anybody, but we're definitely missing that. So I said, you know what? I want to make sure that these kids, they have a head start in life versus coming in as the underdog like I was, right? When I started, I didn't come in at a head start, and what they do with it is up to them. So my goal was that for by the time they're 21, I wanted to set them up where they can literally be financially free. And I figured I would do that in 4 ways. That I would make sure that they have a great credit score by the time they're 18. They would have be able to graduate college debt free. So they will have a college fund to pay for that. That they will have a vehicle that's paid off, and that they will have one investment property, right? So those 4 things. And the only way, honestly, that I was able to give that to my kids was through real estate, right? And even the only way I'm able to sit here and be successful from where I came from was because of real estate, the power of it. Again, not educated. I couldn't just go work at the stock market, right? Or go work at Apple and be a CEO if I didn't have an education. I was a single mother. I didn't have access to unlimited daycare, right? I only had access to when my parents could watch my kids, which was, typically during nights and weekends. So I had to work as a waitress. So the only way I was able to change my life was really through real estate in some way, shape, or form. I know a lot of my followers or some people, they write me and they're incarcerated or they had a felony, right? And maybe it was wrong or right, whatever the case may be, but you can't just go out and get start a business or go work at a Fortune 500 with a felony, right? But they can go buy real estate with the felony, So that's real estate is really the easiest thing to get into. And it's not like a one size fit all. It really fits into every situation and there's no limit. So that's what I love about it. It's very low to get in, and it's very versatile and can change your life. But for sure, that's what I believe in. And I definitely did that for the kids. And, hopefully I can help others and to do it for their kids or, give back to the youth in some kind of way, shape or form, whether it's teaching at schools or something about how they can do this stuff.
No, absolutely. Share with them what you did with your daughter, far as like with the credit card and like how.
Oh yeah,
that was a live that I was on. I was like, and I could see like how happy like you were, and you were so excited, and it was just so genuine. And I'm like, that's what it is, and that really like stood like I'm saying to me. So like my third child, she's 16, she's about to be 17, and I'm doing that with her. I didn't get to do it with the other 2. At a younger age, but I'm like, okay, so these last 2, y'all about to get it now.
Y'all gonna get good. Yeah. Absolutely. So what so for my kids, so my daughter, obviously you're limited on what you can do. You can set them up, but you're limited until they're 18. So what I was able to do was I put my daughter on my credit card as an authorized user for at least a year or 2. She was just on there. She had her own little credit card and I kept paying the bill, made sure I didn't have any late payments. And once she turned 18, she was able to adapt all of that credit history. So here she is, never had a phone bill in her, never had anything in her name, phone, credit, anything. 16 days after she turned 18, we walked into a bank. She was able to apply and qualify for her own credit card, 100% independent, not secured. And they ran her credit and her credit score was a 767, right? And she had only been 18 for 16 days. So it really, as a parent, like, cause obviously I didn't know, like I've read about it and heard that you could add your kids, but I didn't know like how soon it would work or if it would really work. So when it worked, and then like, it was just such a sigh of relief. And like, you can see, obviously I was super excited. I just couldn't wait to tell my audience because like, that's your kids, right? You want the best for them. And it just really worked. So that was just really, as a parent, like that was like a big victory for me. And that's also something I would tell my students and your listeners here is that like sometimes like, well, I'm a firm believer that anybody can invest in real estate, but sometimes we just had a hard time, right? Or maybe you're still working and you're like, listen, I've already put in 15 years at this job. I'm going to get a nice 401k. I don't really want to deal with the real estate. Or maybe a lot of people that got screwed in the past or got foreclosures, they just don't care about the money. They just don't want to do it. So if you're in that situation and you have kids, you just have good credit, right? If you need the best thing about credit is it can be repaired, right? It can be fixed. So if you're older or you just don't want to go into real estate and maybe you're, and you have these children, make sure you fix your credit first and get those habits and just add your kids on as authorized users. So that way, even if you can't pass down the real estate to your kids, you can pass down that extra good credit score, which will allow them to do so much more, like purchase real estate or get cheaper financing. So again, if everybody can't pass down generational wealth with businesses and real estate, or it's just not for everybody, but you can still, at bare minimum, pass down that credit score just by simply practicing good credit habits yourself and adding your kids on as users.
Yeah, I love that. That way you're giving people, other options so they don't instantly shut it down and be like, well, I just know that I can't do real estate, so I don't have anything to leave them. You're like, no, like, again, we go back to, the excuses that are made out of fear, right? And just say, okay, so maybe you don't want to. And like you said, you're tired, you've been working all these years, but okay, so what's your credit look like?
Right. And repair it. And
yeah. And just be able to add them on and just, and set them up, even if your kids aren't young, and they still, maybe because I know I learned the hard way. I didn't have anybody teaching me. My first credit card was, we had Texaco at the time, was a gas station. And that was my first card. Why did they send me that? That was ridiculous. I knew nothing about it. And I'm at the gas station buying sodas and snacks and stuff because that's all you could do, that or get gas. And then the second one was a Capital One. And I was like, wait, I got this Capital One card and I could just go to the store and just buy whatever I want. What? Swipe.
Yeah.
And then the third card I had, my ex-husband at the time, and we're young, He got me the store in the mall Express. He got me that was a Christmas gift. He got me a credit card Christmas gift. See, we're ridiculous. I was buying all types of clothes and I'm like, wait, I need to pay this back. Okay, this is a little, what am I supposed to do now? So, just being thrown into it at that and just being excited, and not having any education around it. And boy, did I pay a nice price. Before that, I was like, and there was at one point I was just like, I don't see myself getting out of this.
Getting out of it, right?
I don't see how do I get out of this? And that took a while, and that took even some more painful lessons. And I'm like, I don't want that to be my kid's story. So for sure, like I put my Capital One card, I put my daughter on there. And then one of my other cards, I put her on there too. And I'm like, oh, we about to do this. Like, cause I'm going to be going live like Ashley. And I'm be like, look what I'm doing.
I'm so happy that you guys, that came across how I wanted to, because I was just so overjoyed. But the good thing about so even when they are authorized users, you don't have to give them a credit card. But I did give her a credit card so that I had at least 2 years of educating her. Like, okay, listen, you only can spend $200 a month on this because we have to pay it back. And this is how you log in. So now that she's 18, it's hers, but we still every month we track our expenses. We know what we have to pay it off in full. We're not going to spend everything we have because, we're only going to use it for things we need. So that's why I'm so grateful that I was able to do it at such a young age, because even if I didn't, and she went out and got her own credit, that's half the battle. Being able to use it responsibly is a whole nother battle, just like you were saying. So that's another benefit of getting it while they're young, if you can, but just not handing them the good credit, explaining and doing things with them to show them how to manage it and keep it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just love everything that you're doing. And I know you're offering a lot of classes. And guys, I was just in her class a couple of days ago, and it was on hard money lending. At first, when you first had put it out there, I was like, well, I already know about the hard money, lenders. I was like, yeah, so I'll just probably catch something else. And then I stopped and I said, I'm doing it again. Because sometimes we get in our own head and we act like we know everything. Act like we know everything. I'm like, wait a minute. I know a little bit, so I'm not even going to sit here and act like I know everything when it comes to hard money lenders. And I know that, especially in real estate, it is about getting creative. So, I want to learn more. So I was like, let me sign up. And then you was on live too. And I was like, I even typed in there. I was like, I'm signing up right now. And I got it in. It was just so, I really like just like the way that you teach it as well too, because, especially when you had the definition of everything. This is what this is. This is what that is. Because when I had the dinner with two of my clients, and she was telling me that with the private money, they'll do 70% of the ARV. And I was like, what is that? I didn't know, I didn't know what that is. Yeah. And then she was like, after repair value. And I was like, give me an example.
Right.
And then she gave me an example. And I was like, okay, but sometimes when we don't know something, we're kind of afraid to say we don't know what that is. So we just be like, oh, okay, but we're not doing ourselves any justice in that sense. So I had to check my own self and say, wait a minute, I don't know everything about hard money. So I vibe with her. I like her energy. I love her story. Clearly she knows what she's doing. So let me hop in on the class. And I'm like, yep, okay, now I'm waiting for the next one, the business credit one. So if you don't mind just letting the listeners know like some of your classes that you have, so we can definitely support you while educating ourselves at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. So honestly, because I didn't set out to be a coach, right? I didn't set out to be a mentor, but I love it. Don't get me wrong. So I am literally forming these classes as you guys give me feedback. I need to learn this. So what I've done is I want to get all the basics of real estate. So we did the hard money lending. We're going to do like business funding. So you can learn how to use credit cards and stuff like that. But my very next one is finding and analyzing. So believe it or not, I have clients right now with $50,000, $100,000, and they can't use it because they don't know how to find deals or they can't find deals. And as I talked about in the workshop, the money is the easiest part. I know it may take some training for you to realize that, but that's really easiest. The hard part is finding good deals. And so that's the next one. We also have like some rehab management, property management. I'm bringing my CPA on to show you how to save taxes. I'm bringing my contracts attorney who does all of my contracts for like contractors and independent contractors, workers, and also like my trademarks. So I'm going to keep doing these and partnering up with people that's valuable in any way, shape, or form. And they're only $199. So what I would like to say is, and first of all, I'm a strong believer, if you don't need the information, don't use it. But just like you said, like you was like, well, I already know everything, but you can always gain one thing. I literally go on free lives right now with people that's doing stuff that I've already done. And I challenge myself to always take away at least one good thing, and I'm satisfied. But if you want to be serious about starting real estate and investing, it's a business. So everything that you join, these $200 classes, it's a tax write-off. So you are literally getting the information for free because you can write all this stuff off as a business expense. But again, that's when if we're not trying to say, well, let me just get this play and I want to go in the back way and get one or two, then that's not thinking long term. But once you say, hey, this is going to change my life. Even if I buy one or two properties, all this education, I literally can get it written off and not pay Uncle Sam. And that's why, I encourage people to invest and find these classes and try, obviously making sure it's somebody you trust, but every dime that you spend, you can get it right back as a tax write-off, but you definitely have to execute. But that's exactly what I have going on those topics. But I typically center around financial knowledge. So they'll all be about like how to use credit cards. That's going to be another workshop, and also real estate, right? And then I try to break it down where it's everything you need. So obviously funding, you need to learn how to find it. Then once you find it, you need to learn how to rehab it or network with these people. And then once you do that, you need to know how to property manage or network with those people. So that is what I kind of focused around. And then the other stuff as you grow. So now you need tax savings and tax strategies. You may need some legal contracts. So that's what I'm starting. That's what I'm doing. And again, as much stuff as more people want to know, or as I increase, because I'm like this crazy investor now that do all these other things. So I'm always trying to, when I find success, help other people. So right now I'm doing Airbnb, or at least I'm starting. I'm like so close to it, right? So I'm documenting everything. I'm remembering and writing down what I'm learning so that I can teach other people how to do it. So I do feel like I'll always be a wealth of knowledge, and I do offer some one-on-one and also mentorship. So for sure, whatever you guys need, just reach out to me or, stay following me. I'll definitely have a lot more classes going on.
Yeah, I love that. And I always tell, my listeners, I'm like, experience is the best teacher. So we go through these experiences and we learn this. And some of those experiences are really painful, but then we come out with a great lesson learned. And then we can take it and we can give it to the next person. Because I don't believe that, personally, my belief is we weren't meant to struggle. We weren't meant to suffer all the time at all. That's not the core of who we are at all. Now, you may have one of your lessons here to learn is forgiveness, right? So you may have had some childhood trauma, or, someone may have done something to your kid or to yourself or something. And one of your biggest lessons is to learn how to forgive. So it's not keeping you with the handcuffs on, right? So now you have that whole thing, but you're also struggling financially. I'm like, nah, I don't think that's how it was meant to be. Like, I really don't believe that that's the case, right? And so a lot of those things we can end up bringing on ourselves and keeping, that energy in that sense. So a lot of, so this is kind of like even different having this conversation on seeing with your soul, but it's all connected. It's all connected because there's so many people that want to do so much more in life, but one, they don't really like believe in themselves or they don't think that they deserve it. So we talk about that and we work through that. So now as we're working through that, now we got to put the action behind it. And that's where you come in at. Right. You sharing your story. So, okay. So now, she over, there or him or whatever, believes in like, you know what? I believe that I deserve this and I'm going to go out and make it happen. And now they're connecting and listening to you share your story. And it's like, oh, wait, this is someone who is so relatable and have gone through these things. And all right, so now I'm going to be able to put some action behind the fact that I've shifted my belief and my mindset. And now I believe that I can, have financial freedom and not have to keep going to a job that I really just don't like, that's really draining and feeling like this is it. And basically just counting the days until you expire on earth and just being miserable. And I'm like, no, that's not our story unless we make it our story. So again, I love that you share your story and what you went through and then teaching and offering these different things. So I'm definitely like, we were talking before we hit record. I was like, I'm just waiting for the business credit one. Like, so I got a couple businesses. So I want to build that up in that sense too. So I'm also not limiting myself and what I want to do out here before, my time is up here and being able to pass these things on down to my kids. So
your kids. Absolutely. Yeah. So, and then also what I said, I wrote out my calendar last night and it is in February. It is going to be on the 26th, the business credit. So that will be it. And I'm again, going to bring it and deliver it and make sure it's so understandable. So that's when that's going to be. But yeah, I totally agree with you. You know what? Honestly, we are our own worst enemies. If we believe anything you believe and think you can do, you can. But guess what? Anything you say you can't do, you won't. Right. So just like you said, so I've met people who say like, I don't like to fly. Right. So that's a real fear. But I encourage and try to challenge people to try to get over that because you're limiting yourself. Now you're saying, and I know people that's literally 60 years old that's never left the state of Michigan because they don't want to fly. Now, obviously they can drive places, but you're putting yourself in, and obviously I'm not saying like, go ahead and fly, if that's something that's really going to cause you anxiety and stuff, but let's not limit ourselves, right? Or I can't invest in real estate or I refuse. It's always limiting ourselves. But as long as our mindset is there, we can literally do everything and we're not meant to struggle, right? If you are struggling, is that, and then another thing is I feel like we care too much about what people think, right? Because if you are struggling right now, and I'm not going to sit here and say I never struggled, right? We talked about my story and where I started. There was a lot of struggle in there when you're making $20,000 a year. So that's about less than $2,000 a month, right? So obviously I was struggling, but I didn't have to stay that way. But you have to be vulnerable, right? If you are in a really bad situation now, you have to find somebody to talk to and seek that guidance, right? But you may have to get outside help because clearly what you're doing isn't working. But for sure, just wanting to do something and taking actions to do it, you will always be in a better position because you were not meant to struggle. You just got to put yourself out there and find the people, just like you said. I love that.
Yeah, I know. Absolutely. When you were teaching in the class and you were showing us an example of a deal and that it ended up not working out. And it was something that you said, and like, I don't quote me really like on the numbers, but it was something like $10,000. I'm just going to put that number out there. And the buyer, walked away from it because they was like, I don't want to pay all that money, but they weren't looking at it as the long term. But it wasn't that part. It was a part where you said all they had to do was say to you, I don't actually have the money, the $10,000. Is there a way that I can get that? And I was like, that's it. We walk away from things because we think that, I don't have it, but versus saying, how can I get it? Just being honest that's the vulnerability part to say, okay, Ashley, so I see this deal. The only thing that's stopping me right now is this $10K. I don't have that $10,000. And you can either say, well, okay, well, I don't know what to tell you, bye. Or, right. Okay, so let's see how we can get you this $10,000 so we can make this deal work for you. And I think that comes with so many things. People who may feel, stuck in their life. And I always say, we're never stuck. We're just blocked. But the words that we use is stuck. But maybe you need to reach out to someone and just say, man, I'm really just feeling down. I'm just feeling like I'm just really stuck and I don't know. But you have to say something because you have to do your part. right? You have to do your part, because other than that, we're just causing this self-inflicting pain. Like we're doing it. Like we're staying stuck, or we're limiting ourselves, even with the flying. Okay. So I know some people that are afraid, in that sense. And I'm like, look, we can do a hypnosis session and I'll get you right.
Right. Or listen, take a shot or a pill or something, go to sleep. But let's not take 24 hours to get to California when you can, from where I'm at, where I can fly and get there in 4 hours, right? Yeah. If I drive, it's 24 hours. So yeah, it's definitely that belief for sure. And like you said, I'm so grateful that I put that lesson in. And I was like, people aren't going to care. But I really thought that was important, because we look at what we don't have. And we, like I said, in that deal, it was $90,000 in profit. But we also offend people. Like, this was a while back on another product. One young lady, I do one-on-one calls. The call is called Ask Me Anything, right? I can do anything I've done. You can ask me, or anything you have, and I'll give you answers. So she booked the call and she didn't find value in it, I guess. So 6 months later, she decided to write me and say, I feel like everything you told me I could have found on my own and I didn't find value. So again, her approach was so negative, because if any of my clients said that, even if I had to stop what I'm doing, I'm going to jump on a call with you right now and say, wait a second, where did I drop the ball at? Let me make it right. But when you attack me and disrespect me and said, like, you shouldn't have did this, you took my money, I didn't learn anything. But I said, well, first of all, the title was Ask Me Anything. So did you ask the right questions? Like, but at the end of the day, I'm still willing to help, even though it's been 6 months and you could have told me that day that, I didn't provide value. But it's just our approach, right? So had she would have said, hey, listen, Ashley, I'm sorry, I feel like I didn't get anything, because I still feel I'm in the same place. And I would have, worked with her on let's getting her out of this and making sure that she got what she needed. So just with, like you said, with the workshop, the gentleman, instead of him saying like he didn't have the money, so he kind of attacked me and said, I knew hard money wouldn't work. The fees are too high. That's too much. How am I using somebody else's money, but I still got to bring money? When you could have said, listen, I ain't gonna lie, I just don't have it. And then we could have found the money for him, or I would have partnered with him on the deal. Mm-hmm. So we definitely have to make sure that we are respectful and, obviously looking at the bigger picture, not always looking at the cost, but what the value and what we're going to get out of it. So I'm so happy that helped, bring it to reality on what, I was trying to come across.
100%, because it just opened it up and is saying, like, even with you, sharing that about the Ask Me Anything. So if someone's like, ask me anything, you really got to sit within yourself and say, okay, so what do I really, where am I at right now? And what could, what do I believe could help me right now in this sense? And then kind of just, come up with your question in the sense. I was just having a conversation with someone the other day. I was like, you will always get something out of something. I don't care if it's an event you go to, a seminar, a webinar, whether it's free, you paid $1,000, $2, whatever. You will always be able to get something out of anything as long as you're open. As long as you're open, you'll be able to get I've been on something for an hour and a half, and it was one thing that they said was like, mind blown. And I'm like, done. I'm good. Just great. Like, that's what, that was. I paid when I did a VIP day with my, one of my old coaches that helped with like business. And I paid like $2,500, and I wasn't including on going there. I paid $2,500, and she did this. And this was before I was certified to do hypnosis. She did hypnosis on me around one thing. And it was worth it. Just the one hypnosis
just the one thing
was worth it, because that was something that was blocking me from other things, having me afraid of like myself, my own self, something I can't get away from. So I'm like, you'll always be able to get something out of it unless you're just not open.
Not open. Yeah. And that's my challenge. A lot of people are trying to figure out a way why it was a waste of money. So every time, whether I do something for free or pay $50,000, $100,000, whatever, I just want one thing, right? If I take away one thing, that's what I need to do, but I have to execute. I have to execute on it. So yeah, I love that. That's a rule. When I sign up for something, I just want to take away one thing. As long as I learn one thing, it's valuable.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Because what we end up doing is we put so much expectation on this one individual person to like fix our whole life, when that's not their role. That's not their role, at all. So I think what that also does when we do, and I've done that before, like in the past, we are taking the responsibility off of ourselves and putting it on a stranger, such as you. In 30, in the next 30 to, 60 minutes, I need you to fix my life. Like, wait, that's kind of cheating. I tell some of my clients sometimes, I'm like, I can't learn your lessons for you. Trust me, if I could, like I would, because I'd be wanting like, take it off. But I can't learn the lesson for you, just like someone else can't learn the lesson for me. That's really actually just cheating. And then how am I going to actually evolve and grow, or how are you going to evolve and grow if, if this person is giving you like everything? You take that one thing and you look at that, and then you run with that. So no, I'm glad you put that story, that example in there, because it opened me up. I'm like, oh, so Ashley be partnering with people too? Okay. That's good to know. So that taught me something too, that you are open if it makes sense and it's the right, of course, the right timing for you and stuff, but you're open. So now I know, okay, so she's open. So she might be somebody that I can go to because I have all this locked up, but I don't have this part. So I can at least present it to her. So that was big. So I got a bunch of things from there. So
yay, I'm super excited. And again, yes, thank you. And that's true. You just never know. But for sure, like everybody has a struggle in their journey, right? So somebody like myself, they might say, well, she's successful. She has all these properties and stuff, but I don't have the manpower, right? I'm only one person. So I have some money to invest because I partner with, lenders and stuff. So the money isn't the issue, but I don't have the time to sit there and meet contractors every day. So if you are a person that don't have the money, find somebody that has the money, but out the time, because you don't have the money. So you have the time, right? And now, again, I always say 50% of something is better 100% of nothing, right? So that's all it is. So again, obviously, I'm an investor. I know I don't have the time, but if, like you said, if something makes sense and I can be the silent partner on the finance part, why wouldn't I do it? Because I know that I would love to do 100 deals right now, but I don't have the capacity. And that's why partnerships are so important and valuable. You just have to bring something to the table and seek out where you're lacking, right? So if you have great credit and, but no, you don't have time, then find somebody with time and use your credit to get in real estate. If you have a lot of time and you're unemployed, find somebody with the money and use that to partner. So yes, thank you. I'm glad you picked up on that.
Oh, for sure. So I'll definitely be hitting that link and submitting the deal. Before we get off here, I want to go back to something you said twice, and that was a hard thing for me too. So I know some of the listeners are probably like, I don't know, is where you say the money is the easiest part, right? That is something that my clients tell me too. They're like, oh, the money is the easiest part. And I'm in my mind, I'm like, no, it's not. It's the hardest. They're like, you just need to find a good deal. You need to find a good deal. And it just didn't make any sense to me. And even with you saying that now, too, I'm like, you're right, though, now that I've gotten, dabbled into it. No. So I first decided after we had that dinner that I was like, okay, I'm going to start looking for properties. That was early October of last year. And here it is, January now, and I have 5 properties.
Congratulations. And you're saying October 2021?
Yeah, a couple months ago.
Wow, right.
We closed on November. That's amazing. My first closing was November 30th, and it was actually 3 properties because it was a deal. It was a package.
Yes.
And then December, what is that? That was November 30th, so that was a 3. And then, so November 30th, I closed on the first 3, which was one deal, but it was 3 separate properties. And then December 8th, I closed on 1 property. And then December 31st, I closed on the 5th one. So they wanted to close. Wow. They wanted to close. And when that one went in, it was a 2-week turnaround. And that was a good part as far as locking in the deal. Was like, okay, we'll be able to close by the end of the year because they wanted it to be, closed.
Yeah, a lot of people want to do that. Yeah, for sure. Mine was like the 17th, but that was the last day because my lender, they took like a long vacation for the holiday. So even though it wasn't the last day of the year, it was the last day I could close for my lender, December 17th. So I had a closing too. And then I locked my I haven't closed yet where it's a bank owned. But I locked up a duplex like December 30th or something like that. So I locked it up. Obviously, I wasn't able to close. But yeah, it's actually pretty fun to like try to at the end of the year. But it's a lot of hustlers out there at the end of the year because sometimes you have to buy properties if you're facing a big tax bill, right? So It's a lot of people out shopping for properties, cars, and everything at the end of the year trying to save on taxes. But it's very inspiring and amazing. And like I said, just off you being able to do that, this is somebody who did not start investing in real estate until October 2021 when she had the conversation. And by the end of the year, she had 5 properties, right? So
that's so I was able to get the proof of concept that when people were saying the money was the easiest part, now I understand it because at first I was just like, whatever. No, it's not. That's the hardest part. But now that I have the proof of concept, and that's why I encourage everyone, just get started in whatever it is so you can have that proof of concept, or just borrow somebody else's proof of concept, borrow Ashley's, borrow, we don't mind. They've been rocking with me now for, 2 years listening, on the podcast. So now I'm like, okay, so now I need to just make the deal just needs to make sense. And then the money is the easiest thing, but it did not make it. I was resisting it so much. Like I know a lot of the listeners, probably have been too.
That's why they need to be in this finding and analyzing workshop. And that's like my punchline. Like, listen, the money is the easiest part. And if you don't know, you're going to have to attend my funding workshop. But once you do and realize that this finding and analyzing, if you can find and analyze deals good, even if you don't decide to buy them yourself, you can wholesale them, right? Yeah. So it's an income stream for you by wholesaling these properties, because that I pay wholesalers. All I'm paying a wholesaler to do is find good deals, right? So that wholesaler in the example, he made $15,000, or I think he made $10,000 after the price adjustment, but I literally paid him $10,000 to find that deal. That's all he did. He didn't rehab it. He didn't fund it for me. So we can save thousands of dollars, and not saying eliminate wholesales, or we can be a wholesaler ourselves and make thousands of dollars just by finding good deals. So in real estate, that's really all it is to it. And that's why I'm doing this workshop. Again, $197, just like you all, I try to give more than I take. It's really free. Honestly, everything I do is really free, some way, shape, or form, but you will get the money back and the knowledge back, but you have to invest, right? And just full disclosure, I don't know if anybody out here, but I did a free giveaway to a lot of my stuff, right? And people don't even show up, right? Sure. So this training is $200. I gave it to you free in a giveaway, and you don't even show up. Now, I'm not saying all of the time. A lot of times I have people that show up and they're the best. But sometimes they just don't even show up. So we have to pay. But if you're a business, it's 100% write-off. And again, I give you coupons and discounts on other products that make you save double that amount. So definitely want to find people that are doing stuff like that and just start investing and take it seriously, because it's essentially free.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, $200, it was a no-brainer. The money was never the issue. And I'm not saying like, because I just have a whole bunch of money. I just know that putting that 197 up was going to give me so much more education that I'm going to be able. First of all, it just opened me up to more lenders, to more people, and that you're a broker. And I'm like, I can spend my Ashley. But then I was like, it's brilliant that you did this. It made all the sense in the world when you explained why you started to do the class, because people were submitting deals to you and you had to shut it down because it didn't work. So you're like, wait a minute, let's put this on pause. Close it up so no one can submit a deal. And then I'm going to offer a class and teach you exactly what you need to know and exactly what we need to know. So when you're done, then you could submit the deal that's going to end up 9 times out of 10, or whatever it is, closing, because now you know exactly. I was telling my friend, I was like, brilliant. Makes so much sense. Like, you just told us exactly what it is. So now I know all the documents that I need, put it all together into one nice file, and what that property, that property can qualify in a sense. I'm definitely going to take the next class too. I'm really excited for the business one, so I definitely want to jump to that. But I am going to take the analyzing one too, because I still kind of struggle with that. And going back and forth with like my private money person, just certain questions that is asked, and then I'm like jumping the gun, thinking like, I was like, I got a great comp right here, and then she came back on it, and she was like, it's a good comp, except for it's zoned differently. That's why it was zoned that they can make like duplexes and stuff on there. So that's why it was sold for so much. And I was like, dang. Okay, so I'm analyzing the deal based off of that, but I didn't even think to look to see if it was zoned the same. I'm like,
properly, yeah.
So I'm learning through the experience, but I don't want any painful experiences now. I've done a lot of that in my life. So now I'm going to cut to it, take the class with you, learn more, learn from like my client, and then learn from you. And that way I can just really hit the pavement and really start looking for these deals and bringing them into that sense. So, yeah. All right. Well, I definitely appreciate your time on here. Let everybody know how they can connect with you. Where do you hang out the most?
Absolutely. So mostly I'm always on Instagram. It's just the quickest and easiest way to reach me. I respond to DMs. My Instagram is Detroit_investor. On all platforms, Facebook, TikTok, all that stuff. Also, I have a website, www.ashleyhamilton, which is my name, consults. So ashleyhamiltonconsults.com. And that's where you can find all of my products. Also on my website, I put all the podcast links that I've ever been on. So that's the free education. I do give away free stuff a lot on my Instagram. So definitely that's the best way to find me, reach me, and join any of my classes.
Perfect. And I'll make sure that I put all of that in the show notes as well. Again,
okay. Well, thank you.
Thank
you. I enjoyed it. And I really appreciate you being here. And thank you for making it easy, right, to speak. And it really was. So I appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to Seeing with Your Soul. If something you heard resonated with you, feel free to rate, review, and share with others. If you are looking to go deeper, you can connect with Tisha Michelle on Instagram at Mindset Slayer or visit www.healingalignedglow.com.